Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 11th of April. Lord told me with all this nonsense and craziness and madness and Christian junk going on in the world to stay in the Word. So I'm going to be an obedient servant. You know, the Lord came as an example to us concerning the word servant, and I have said and taught that the highest title you can attain to is a servant of the Lord, not apostle, not prophet, not evangelist, not shepherd, pastor, and especially in the black ranks churches, they strive for that title, sister prophetess so-and-so, you know. How about just good old servant sister? And do you service, and are you, as you are a servant to the Lord, are you a servant to your husband, who is your covering El Shaddai provider? Some new concepts here for the brethren, for the brothers, for the husbands, and for the wives. Now I'm going to bring up one here that I heard the other day. I like this man on YouTube. He speaks and reads Hebrew, which I do not. I wish I did. But my Bible mentor did. In fact, he spoke 5 languages. He was Russian Jew. I believe he was of the Levitical priesthood. His last name was Sharf. I have known a Cohen, and we know for sure that the last name Cohen belongs to the Levitical priesthood. So much for that rabbit. And I was going after a thought before I chased the rabbit. I'm the different teacher. I am Eugene Bear, B period. My family calls me B, short for Bernie, Bernard, Bernard. But my middle name is Eugene. My last name is Behringer, and I go by Bernie Bear or B, and on YouTube it's Eugene Bear, using my middle name. One word, Eugene Bear, B-E-A-R, like a grizzly. Rawr. Okay. Stay in the Word. Oh, servant, service, in place of subject. Wife, be subject to your husband. Wife, service, and serve your husband as you do the Lord. Okay, and that's actually where I'm going. I started out, I read 4 different Bible translations on husband and wives in Ephesians and Colossians. Ended up in Genesis, and that's where we're going to start. The law of first mention. That could be a 5th tool. I have my 3 tools, and then the 4th tool is a spiritual witness of peace within, heart, mind, conscience. All right, the deeper of the mind is the heart and the conscience and the free will and the memory and the emotion. These are the likenesses of God. Humanity is not the image of God. God is spirit light. Okay, so when we speak of God here, there's a couple places. Now, of the 4 Bible translations I read through, King James, Moffat, Revised Standard, and Sacred Name Bible, I ended up with the Amplified Bible. And you need this. It needs to be one of your top 5 study Bibles. It's called the Amplified Bible. Now, the only problem with the Amplified, they throw every word and the kitchen sink in there to describe something, and sometimes it takes away from the spiritual direction or meaning, because every word is there, and you only need the high spiritual words and not the low intellect, IQ, man-centered words. And that's where the Amplified, you need to be studied, and it will give you like every definition in the Webster Dictionary following the subject word, and sometimes you don't need that. But it is a good study Bible. Sometimes it will reinforce what you're trying to say. Now, back to the Jewish man that reads Hebrew. And I like him. And he's on Facebook. And he wears glasses. He speaks and reads Hebrew. And he teaches well. But he did something the other day. He brought bride all the way back to Genesis. You know, if you take your concordance out and the law of first mention, the first time you find bride is in a prophet writing of Isaiah, the 49th chapter. God doesn't use bride in Genesis or Exodus. He uses wife for the first time, and he uses male and female, okay? And there's no evidence of a marriage ceremony performed by God. In fact, there's no evidence, but I think Adam and Eve learned about a lamb slain when God made clothing for them out of skins, because they covered themselves once they could exercise their free will and they knew they were naked. They didn't know they were naked till they ate of the tree of life. Or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in disobedience. But God knew they had to do it, and he set up the whole stage. He put the trees there, the serpent there. Serpent was wiser than Eve, and he tricked Eve. But Adam hearkened unto the voice of his, did it say wife there? It may have. Yes, Genesis 3:17. And to Adam he said, because you have listened and given heed to the voice of your wife. Up to then, she was a female helper or helpmate. And now back to the ladies in the New Testament, in Ephesians, wives. Can you service your husband the same way you are a servant and service the Lord? Because the Lord is the covering of the family, husband and wife and children, El Shaddai. But the husband in the natural is the covering to the wife and the children. And your desire and yearning will be to your husband, the Lord said to Eve after she had sinned. When he addressed Eve, I'm going to increase your pain in childbirth, and your desire will be to your husband, and your husband shall cover you. El Shaddai, all-sufficient provider. He will work and provide for you, clothe you and feed you, and you will procreate. You will give him children. Your pain will be increased because of your disobedience, but your desire will be to your husband, and keep the marriage bed undefiled. See, I've been married and had free adulterous prostitutional women have sex with neighbors and other men in my home, in my bed. So I've heard so-called believing women out there say, oh, well, the bed is undefiled. You can do anything you want in the bed as long as it's to your husband. It's not saying that there. It's saying when your husband goes away to work, don't be home in his house, in his bed, having sex with another man and being an adulteress. Keep the marriage bed undefiled, unadulterated, no adultery. That's what that's saying. Okay, it's 8 minutes. I'm going to do a part 2 now and go to the New Testament. Anyway, I may want to back up here in Genesis for a second. Oh yeah, I need to read this one. Starting in Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own likeness, not image, likeness, because God is spirit word. Now the only likeness image was spirit soul that he breathed into Adam, along with oxygen or air to fill up his lungs. But he had to turn Adam on with spirit soul so Adam's heart would start going, moving blood and carrying oxygen. Okay, in his own likeness and in being and likeness being. Okay, image of a human person doesn't come in until Adam and Eve, and until the singular seed Christ comes out of the womb of Mary. Then you can see an image. The Lord said, when you see me, you see the Father. When you see my image or my human body, you see the Father, because the Father that is light, Spirit Word, is in me. The likeness of the Father is in me, Spirit Word. Okay, a likeness of God. He created him male and female. He created them, all right? 28, and God blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, procreate, have babies, children, and fill the earth and subdue it, using all its various sources in the service of God and man. And there's my point. We're going to go to Ephesians and Colossians and talk about service to God, service to the Lord, and wives, service to your husbands, because he covers you. He loves you and nourishes you as his own flesh. You become one. You procreate and make babies. And where Adam said, bone of bone and flesh of my flesh, two human beings after Adam cannot make bone and flesh of flesh unless they make a child. Then that statement is true. You have a child comes forth, and the bloodline is determined by the father. That's why they can tell who is the father of the child. Bone is made between the mom and the dad in the baby or in the child, and they became one through intercourse to make the child. Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone is a human child, procreation. Okay, 12 minutes, part 2 coming up in Ephesians and Colossians about wives servicing or submitting to your husbands. Love you. Bye.